Alrighty, let's do this. Oh, perfect. I actually got it good. Huh. Wow, that's a good angle. Huh. I am so lucky. All right, so no one is here yet, so we'll wait until someone shows up to do the big news. But welcome, non existent audience, to yet another stream of mine. I should probably work on some kind of stream starting thingy so that you guys don't think, shoot, Paul's been talking for a whole minute and I haven't heard a single thing he says. Maybe that's why streamers do it. I never thought about that. I always thought it was just they did it as a formality because every other streamer does it or because they had some last minute things to take care of. But I think it's so that people can pretend that they haven't missed anything. Huh. Well, hopefully I can find a good enough artist who would be willing to do that or a video artist because I think just a simple art page probably wouldn't do it. So I don't know. That's definitely something to think about. So I see someone has already liked the stream. Like, I've hardly said anything, guys. You must be really easy to please. But thank you. I've heard that likes for streams slightly help visibility, although in my case, my usual audience are just my loyal fans. So, well, I've been told not to say fans, but only one person said that. So, anyway, my loyal viewers are usually the ones that come to my streams. So, we shall see how things go today. I do plan on. Yo, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You changed your name, didn't you? Cat Boy? Uh, are you different than Splat Cat? Because I do know someone in here who calls herself Cat's Plays, and I want to make sure I'm talking to the right person. So who exactly are you? Just to make sure you didn't do a name change. Oh, it's Luna. Congratulations. I'm glad you could make it. Oh man, it's been so long since you've been here. That's an interesting name change. You care to tell me what the reason behind it is? But yeah, what's been going on with you lately? As for me, I ever since the last time you came to my streams, I got a job. I mean, I think I had a job back in my old house. I just had to quit it because I had to move. But now I have a new job in my new house. I have the Banjo and Kazooie amiibo. I Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, if you just want to listen, that's totally fine. I mean, there's this thing called lurking nowadays. And hey, don't let me distract you from your party. Like, if you really need to uh, hang out with your friends or whatever, like, don't let me stop you if they're like people you haven't seen in eons. So you like to go to parties, is that it? Like, I never knew that about you. That's so cool. What's like the point of this party? But yeah, once more people get here, I was thinking I was going to read some sections of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows because I was at someone else's stream and she said, "Hey, Paul, I'd like to see you attempt an Aussie accent." And it's like, I tried to attempt an Aussie accent and I was told I sounded too British. So if I'm good at sounding British, then why don't I actually read British characters? You don't have friends? Oh, that stinks. I used to kind of be in that same boat. When I first was kicked out of my school, I was about 9 years old and had basically no one for, I'd like to say, about 4 or 5 years before I finally jumped into youth group. I mean, I had my best friend, but I didn't have a huge, reliable set of friends that I was used to hanging out with. And then once I started incorporating myself into youth group more, admittedly, it was a bit of a struggle because I was so used to the people at my school that I was like trying to get used to all these social customs that I had never heard of before. Like, talking to girls alone was like a major leap forward for me because I was like, I had never heard about any of these things that are don't do's because my school was mostly guys. So we called everyone sir, even the few girls that were there, we called sir. We called all the women sir. We like had this equality mindset. In fact, I think that for a time they even shared bathrooms at that school. That's how equal everyone was. And then to all of a sudden be dumped into a world where things are like ladies first, don't touch a girl here, don't say that to a girl. It's like, eesh, my gosh, it's such a culture shock from what I'm used to. So I definitely get that struggle to a certain degree. Admittedly, you haven't told me much, but I'm just guessing based on what you said. So, my gosh, I'm so glad that you could make it to one of my streams. I definitely have been trying really hard to pay attention to the average times that all of my viewers are available and then trying to think what would be a good time to stream so that the most amount of people can come to it. But then I also got to think about, do I have the ability to be able to stream in this current place? So right now, my folks are all out, and so I can talk as loud as I want without worrying about ruining my dad's work. And eventually, I'm going to try to start streaming in the basement because I've been told that the basement isn't that bad. I've been able to have some Skype calls and a Discord call in the basement, and they both worked fine, or at the very least, the people didn't tell me that I didn't sound good. So I I think it sounded good enough. Whew. So I forgot to get a drink of water. So if you will excuse me for a moment, I am going to go and make sure that my throat doesn't get too sore from all of this talking. So I have this stupid COVID mask to say a BRB. So hopefully let me do a BRB message in the chat so that everyone knows that I'm getting some water, and I shall be right back. Okay, I am back. Alrighty. So I've got lots and lots of water. Hopefully, I'm going to try to stream for at least an hour, possibly two, if my voice doesn't go out too much. Oh, glad you're still here, Luna. You don't mind if I still call you Luna, do you? Because I still got to get used to all these crazy name changes of yours. I- Just curious. That's something that I'd be curious to know. Like, you, out of everyone I've ever met, has probably changed your name the most. I was curious, like, for one, how do you get these names? Like, when I first met you, you named yourself Kaede Akamatsu after the protagonist of Danganronpa V3. That I understand, but ever since then, it just seems like you've been pulling names out of a hat or just be like, hey, I'll just see what sounds cool. Eth- Ethan Toole? Is that like your new name or is that like a celebrity you know? I'm afraid you'll have to catch me up on modern lingo. As for me, I started out this channel as just my name, but then after that, I wanted to make a blog so that I could post more of my thoughts. So I called that blog The Catholic Nintendo Nerd. However, that blog was a massive failure. I think only one person ever read what I wrote, and it wasn't even that great. It was just a tiny little essay. And so I decided, well, if the blog's not going to work, I still like the name and I want people to be able to see it. So I decided to make that the name of my YouTube channel. And I kept that name for about, I'd like to say about 4 years. I stayed as the Catholic Nintendo nerd. But then around 2020, I started to see how Nintendo was really getting on my nerves. Corporate Nintendo, not to be confused with developer Nintendo, because Nintendo's game makers are amazing, but their corporate people are really scummy. So I said, well, I don't want to associate myself with Nintendo, but I don't like changing my name all that much. So I decided to go with the Catholic gaming nerd because gaming still implies that I'm a gamer. Oh, yes. I kind of still like that old profile picture. I might even change it back one of these days just because I feel like I like what Sploon did on my current profile picture, but at the same time, I also feel like I like what I did with my original profile picture because it's like it wasn't even it wasn't even a professional picture. It was just me sitting on a couch, pointing a camera at me and hoping that I looked good. That picture is now 8 years old and I bet I haven't even changed that much since then. Like I've probably changed a lot in terms of emotional maturity, but if you were to do like a side by side comparison of me like leaning forward like this versus that, well, I'm glad you approved. I really liked it. A lot of people thought that I had hired a professional photographer that, and I was like, nope, that was just a selfie that I did in the spur of the moment. It was in February of 2014, to be exact, when I decided to get that new profile picture. I was at a place called GM World, which was, wait, was it GM World? It was next to GM World, and it was like a whole bunch of cars, and there was a couch. And you know me, back then, I really loved trying to experience as many couches as possible whenever I went to like a conference or a big place. I don't know why. I guess I just had this thing where I really wanted to just experience everything cool that the place had to offer. So I found the couch and I sat on it and I said, let's try taking a picture of this because I like this place. And that ended up being my profile picture. So we shall see. Maybe if enough people vote for it, maybe I will change it back. I'll just have to offer a huge apology to Sploon and say, I love your work. I don't have anything against your work, but I also really like that selfie. I also think that she wanted to capture the fact that my hair is hardly ever like perfectly smoothed out. Like you can probably even see it from here. There's a couple of twigs of hair sticking out and it's not like perfectly aligned. My hair my hair just doesn't like to behave itself. Although if I ever get this second job, by second job I don't mean second job ever. I mean like a second job in addition to comforting to talk to. Wait a minute, why are you crying? I mean, I'm glad you're saying that, but that emoji makes it sound like you're either upset about it or there's like you don't get to talk to anyone else like that. Like, I'm sorry if I made you cry. I didn't mean to. But yeah, like my hair has been a mess for probably over 10 years at least. And even back then, it was probably still messy. So I tried really hard. Okay, that's good. I'm glad you clarified that because I did not, I did not want to make you upset. My hair isn't a mess. Well, that's good to know. I mean, there are people out there that have like their standards for how male hair should look if it's long. There are people that say it should look as smooth as Rumpelstiltskin's. There are people that don't really care as long as it's long. I know some people who think that all males should have short hair. I am not one of those people. I think, they have the right to cut their hair short if they want, but if a man decides to grow out his hair, I'm going to be very happy about it. Conversely, if a girl wants to have short hair, I'm also going to be okay with that because I am of the opinion that females, I don't really think I'm capable of thinking a female is ugly unless she, like, this might be getting into politically incorrect territory here, but I d I don't like it when females feel the need to, like, mutilate themselves too much. I want them to just be happy with whatever God gave them. And I want them to realize, like, God didn't make mistakes. He made everyone. Of course, this goes for males too. Like, I don't want them to mutilate themselves either. But as someone who is a male attracted to females, it is very hard for me to find a female who isn't attractive, is what I'm trying to say. Well, an age appropriate female that isn't attractive, I should say. No, you're right. Hair doesn't have a gender. But I do think that society tries to make it have a gender. Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, if you're a guy, you're not allowed to curl your hair." I mean, I guess I wouldn't be opposed to it in principle. It would be the underlying principle behind why is the guy curling his hair? Is it because he likes it better? Is it because he's trying to rebel against someone? Like, what are you trying to say with it? Are you trying to cause controversy? That would be something that I would take into consideration. But then again, I also realize that most people don't have like signs above their heads that say like, "Hey, look at me. I'm a rebel." Like, I don't think people really do that. So you could potentially see someone walking around dressed in an unusual outfit and you don't have to be, how do I word this? Like, okay, let's take this shirt for example. Now, the average person could look at this shirt and see that there's a bunch of hearts on it and be like, wait, you got more mature? I mean, I haven't seen you in a while, so I don't really know. And, well, actually, I haven't seen you at all. I've only ever heard you talk in these streams and you made that video about me. But if you're, hey, Yubi, welcome in. I'd like you to meet Luna. Luna has been trying to come to my streams, and it's always been hard. So we finally got to reunite. Or at least I always say Luna. If you want people to call you by another name, you can go ahead and say that here in the chat. My definition, oh, silly me. How are you, Yubi? What's been the latest news on your end? I was just about to say maturity to me. I would say a person who is mature is a person. Ah, Ethan. Okay. Ah, I gotcha. Do you mind if I still call you Luna though? Because I'm a bit of an old soul. That'll help me remember who you are. I mean, I don't think there's anything that says Luna has to be exclusively a female name. I'll have to think about that. But anyway, okay, sounds good. Anyway, my definition of mature is someone who is able to look at the world in a very wise way. Like, the person is able to kind of see things as they are, and they're able to sort of look more objectively at everything. Like, they can say, okay, let us think about this long and hard. Let's look at every individual factor and think, is this right? Is this wrong? Am I just doing this to please the crowd? And usually the mature person will say, I have thought long and hard about this, and this seems like the most smart decision. Now, granted, there's a time and a place for emotions, but I think if people rely on their emotions too much, then it can shut down the part of the brain that governs reason. And if there is a way to potentially juggle both, then I would say That's what I call maturity. Physically then mentally, do you mean like, oh, that kind of maturity? Okay, I see. Oh, you just got it from a nap, Yui. Well, I'm glad that you could I'm glad that you could come to me instead of, I don't know, being walking around the house being groggy and like, oh, what am I gonna do to wake myself up? Like, I'll certainly wake you up. Um, I think there's too much emphasis on a person needing to have a grown up body in order to be considered mature. Like, you could take someone like me, where people are constantly mistaking my age and sometimes they mistake my gender too. And for me, I, how do I word this? I think maybe it's because I never went to school, but I never saw the need to constantly be saying, oh, because your body looks a certain way and you've got this much body hair, you're therefore more mature. It's like, no, everyone grows at different rates. Everyone has different balances of estrogen and testosterone. So, therefore, someone, if you take me, for example, I had the broad shoulders, which is one of the things that males go through during puberty. And I don't think every male got the broad shoulders at the same time that I did. So, well, then again, that's not really something people talk about in hindsight. Like, I don't remember the last time someone ever said, "Oh my gosh, your shoulders are so broad." I think I was like 13 the last time that happened. So I had like just gotten through all that changing. But yeah, I guess like what guys go through is usually something along the lines of, usually guys are made fun of if their voice isn't deep enough. Usually guys are made fun of if they're too short. Like that kind of stuff is usually saying, "Oh, you have." I thought you thought I said what, bruh? Um, was that another spell check error? Because I don't usually use slang terms like that. But yeah, like you take someone like me, where my voice never really got ridiculously low. I mean, I can make it low if I want to. It's just not my natural pitch. So, that's, people have often said you must have a deficiency of testosterone, or I don't know, maybe you actually are secretly a girl. And it's like, no, that's just how genetics work. I would probably, even if I was hypothetically trans, I would probably never get the surgery because I'm too afraid of needles. And it seems like it would probably cost a lot of money. And I don't know. I feel like it just wouldn't make a lot of sense. It would be too much of a guess. Like it'd be like, okay, well, let's say that I was trans, and let's say that I did want to get the test. Would I be guaranteed good results? Would I be guaranteed to have a happier life? That's a lot of unknowns because obviously it depends on the individual. Some trans people are like, hey, I'm so happy in this new body. Me, I wouldn't know ahead of time if I would be. And then let's say that I wasn't. And let's say, oh, shoot, now I regret it. Now I should get the surgery reversed. I just scared away someone. Good job, me. I warned you guys at the beginning that this wasn't politically. Oh, I forgot to pin that message. Shoot. Okay, let me fix that. There we go. Now you all will see it. Now you'll make sure that if I talk about this stuff, you won't be like, oh, shoot. Paul, you forgot to warn me that you have, yeah. I, anyway, yeah, let's say hypothetically that I was trans and I wanted to turn into a girl, but then I was like, ew, I don't like this girl body. I want to change back. What if the surgery isn't able to change me back? Then I would be like, I made an irreversible mistake and I don't know if I want to take that back. That's the kind of thing I would not want to go through. And I feel really sorry for anyone that didn't have that assurance that they could reverse if they didn't like it. Yeah, that does sound pretty painful. If you had to go through that, I am really sorry if they had to poke you or anything like that. That sounds really terrifying. I definitely hope that if you ever decide that you want to be a girl again, that, how do I word this? Like, obviously, you know that I'm a Catholic, and we as Catholics believe that God created everyone. And obviously, we believe that, like, certain things are, we believe that certain things are meant to be, but we also believe that there are certain things that God has ordained to be true. So I don't think you could say, I don't think you could say that gender is a medical condition, whereas something like, say, cancer is. So I think that a lot of people who fear their birth gender usually had something happen in their childhood that caused that to happen. Well, h- if you're both, well, okay. It's interesting that you said that, Luna, because every single person, whether you're trans or not, has a mixture of estrogen and testosterone. And I'm sure you know from all that you've researched, from what you've told me, that in order to transition genders, you have to, ugh, grosses me out just thinking about it because I'm afraid of needles, but you have to somehow get the additional hormones into your body so that you can offset the fact that a male has more testosterone and a female has more estrogen. And that's more or less what makes you your birth gender. So, where was I going with that? So, in other words, every single guy has some estrogen and every single girl has some testosterone. And depending on how it balances out, that can cause certain parts of the person, again, regardless of whether you're trans or heterosexual, it can cause certain parts of you to seem like you're the other gender when really you're not. Like, for example, I have a high pitched voice, but yet I am full bodied male. I was born male. I intend to stay male, but yet I have a high pitched voice, which is a feminine trait. You could say I've been blessed with like very baby face like skin, not a whole lot of hair on my body. So that's another feminine trait. But that doesn't make me a female. That just makes me have certain traits that a female would have. In the same way, a female who has more testosterone could have a deeper voice. Oh, did they did they have to modulate your voice when they d well, actually, you never told me if you actually went through with it or not. Cause like, I know some people, when they're trans, they like to, how do I word this? Some people, when they're trans, they like to just go around saying their new gender, but they don't actually get the surgery. Scratch that. I don't You say whatever you want. I don't wanna be rude and say like, "Yo, did you get the surgery?" Like, no, that's too rude. I I just want you to feel like you can say whatever you want here, as long as you don't force me to have to change my vocabulary. Like, I'm good. I'd love to have a discussion. I'd love to know, like, how does it feel? How does it smell? I don't know. There's a certain part of me that thinks it would probably be kind of cool to like give your body extra superpowers. I would personally want to pick and choose which superpowers I would have. Like I'd say, okay, the lack of facial hair that girls have, that would be pretty cool. That would help me from getting all those razor burns. But I don't know if I'd want to have like top surgery. I think that would probably be a little bit too much for me. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable with that. So I think looking beside my Catholic beliefs, I think there's a certain element of coolness to being able to pick and choose what about your body you like and dislike. But again, not my thing because I'm too afraid of needles, even if I wasn't Catholic. Wait, when you say deep, do you mean like that's how you were born, or that's what happened as a byproduct of turning into a boy, as you worded it? And if I'm talking about this too deeply, you guys can silly me, I have the warning. I have the warning up there. I shouldn't have to keep explaining myself. I know I'm going to offend people, but you know what? Those people just don't have to watch the stream if they don't like it. So, I see. Well, I wouldn't say you're dumb. You just have certain things that you want to talk about and certain things that you don't. And that's totally fine. I I can understand why even people who aren't trans might not want to reveal every single thing about them. Like, I'm pretty sure there are plenty of guys who identify as guys who don't want to go around saying, "Hey guys, look what's underneath my pants." Like, I don't think anyone would want to say that. I mean, some people do. But there are certain things that every single person, as a result of being human, is probably going to want to keep private. That's why, when we were kids, we were told that there were certain parts of the body that were considered private, that you didn't exactly go around advertising to people. So if you didn't want to showcase certain elements of yourself, you don't have to. I would be very curious. How do I word this? I would be very curious what what prompted you to want to call yourself a boy? Like, was it because you had an abundance of testosterone? Or was it more of like a coolness factor? Like, I'm just curious. Like, what exactly happened? And again, you can tell me as much or as little as you want. I don't want to pressure you. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but you're like making me legitimately curious now. Silly me, I forgot to adjust the stream settings so that people could see the chat replay. Then again, maybe they wouldn't want to. You guys will have to let me know on one of my future streams if I should do. Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking. Yes. What, you can't hear you can't hear me properly? Oh, it's cuz you're at a party. Yes, I'm asking you why you wanted to be male. Like, why did you think you were a male? I'm just curious. I really want to know. Cuz again, like, I see. What w- I get it. I get it. It's spell check. You're good. Just type what you can and I'll ask you if I don't understand what you're saying. I mean, I most of my life I've also had a complex over my gender. Like, there were certain parts of being a male that I didn't really like. But I also realized that, studying through anatomy, that there were certain things about females that they had to struggle with. And I realized that no matter what gender you are, you're going to have struggles that the other one can't relate to. So, I guess I guess there's a difference between me thinking certain elements of being a female would be cool as opposed to thinking I actually was one. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out here is like the difference between what you think you are versus is it just a thing about jealousy? Cuz like that's something I'm legitimately curious about. Like, do females think to themselves, "Man, guys have it so lucky." Like, I don't know, that just sounds so fascinating. Like, I never would have thought females would say that when at any time. Like, most of my life. Okay, I'll give you that one. The bleeding probably would be something I would complain about too if I was a girl. Of course, guys have their own version of bleeding, but we'll save that for another day. I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. But yeah, I imagine that would probably cause a lot of sickness, a lot of vomiting. Like, my gosh, if I get a really bad razor cut on my face, I feel like I want to pass out sometimes. So I can only imagine if that happened on a more, like, when you're spilling out that much, I imagine it would be a lot more uncomfortable. Yeah. Now, never mind. I don't I don't want to get too messy here, but you have the right to say whatever you want as long as you don't mention you know what. Like I'm a pretty chill guy when it comes to what I can and can't hear about. I know I may not seem like it, but I don't get easily flustered. I'm the type of guy where I can hear about beheading, I can hear about shooting, I can hear about hands getting cut off. Like you're talking to the guy who's played Zero Escape here. So I can hear pretty much anything. As long as I don't have to hear about pokey stuff, then I'm totally good. But just keep in mind that this is a public stream. So whatever you say, people might be able to read it. So just like if you don't want people knowing anything, then don't say it. Whew, well, that got into quite the rabbit hole. I hope the two of you watching this were okay with all of those meanderings of mine trying to understand modern culture. But yeah, I guess you could say when I was growing up, well, there was no such thing. The term transgender didn't exist. Like, oh, okay, well, thanks so much for stopping by. Hopefully, you were able to enjoy the stream. Hopefully, you felt welcomed and that I didn't ask you too many questions. And enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Good seeing you again. Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, when I was growing up, the term transgender did not exist. If you were to say, "Hey, hey guys, I'm transgender," people would be like, "What does that even mean?" So obviously, growing up, I had no idea what any of this meant. I had no idea there was a such thing as gender identity or sexual identity. I didn't even know what sexual orientation was until I was like an adult. So that might have been a byproduct of being homeschooled. But I guess bottom line is that a lot of this stuff was very foreign. And so going into the modern culture, it sort of felt like everyone all of a sudden knew about this. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, how did this become such widespread knowledge when literally it was the total opposite of widespread back in when I was growing up? So that's something I would be curious about is how do you guys learn the stuff that you learn? Like, are there special schools? Are there special textbooks? Do people that are born in a certain generation have like chemicals in their brain that causes them to think differently? Is it because I was homeschooled? Like, what exactly is the explanation here? Whew. Well, it looks like no one is here, so I can blab about something that no one cares about. Mwehehe, I have such power. Unless someone is invisible, because according to this, it says that there's no one here. So now that I am streaming by myself for the foreseeable future, I wanted to talk a little bit about Capcom Fighting Collection. Now, I know I plan on doing that for my Patreon audience, but for now, I'll just say it was a heck of a time trying to get into that game. I am going to plug in my computer, so if you see an awkward angle, don't mind me. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, now it's plugged in. Okay, Capcom Fighting Collection. So it was a collection of a bunch of games that were like Street Fighter. And only reason I did it was because my top tier patron, Matthew Rakowski, said, "Hey, I'd like you to try Capcom Fighting Collection and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Shredder's Revenge." And I said, "Okay, I'll give it a try." And I couldn't get into all those combos. Like, I felt like I was just mashing buttons and I didn't know what I was doing. So that that lack of ease of access was really bothering me. Now, the one game in that collection that was really good was the Puzzle Fighter game. I forgot what it's called. Basically, it was like a gem dropper where you had to connect gems of a certain color. And then if you had like a glowing, sparkling thing the same color as the gems, it would cause all the gems to disappear. I thought that was pretty good, but I didn't like anything else. I am going to check Discord for a minute, see if maybe the folks didn't get the notification. If Luna can show up, but no one else. And Yubi. I don't want to forget Yubi. Yubi and Luna. That's a good crowd. Alrighty, just waiting for Discord to load. If I start cutting out, let me know, guys. Well, I'm assuming any of you exist, that is. And then I can try to like shut down Discord if I have to. Because last time I did that, it kind of messed up the stream a little bit. Alrighty. Discord just loaded. That's cool. Alrighty. Let's go to self promo here. All right. All right, that should work. If it doesn't, I don't know what else to do. Okie dokie. Well, folks, I don't want to just keep talking to myself for another hour, so I may just end it here because I don't see anyone else coming in. Um, or maybe I'll stream again later. We shall see. All right, well, assuming no one else shows up, I am going to be. I'm very happy that Yubi and Luna were both able to show up. Thank you very much for that. So until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.